got to celebrate it. You gotta make sure that you treasure it. School and life, forget the nonsense. It's irrelevant. Be what you put your mind to. You could be the president. Greatness you achieve for your people. You gotta represent.
It goes up, up and away, yeah. Today's the best day ever. You're off and on your way. Up, up and away, yeah. We parlay in the morning. We party throughout the day. Up, up and away, yeah. Up, up, underlay, yeah. Up, up and away, yeah. School ain't like the only way.
I'm your host, Casey Williams, and welcome to another episode of School and Life. Today, we're going to be exploring the idea of teenage love. But first, I would like to introduce you all to our guests for today.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Janaya.
I'm Precious.
I'm Phoenix.
And so, how are we defining love?
I would define love as a chemical experience. So it's something that happens within the body. It's something beyond just the physical that happens within the mind.
I would define love as how much trust you have in somebody.
I would define love as a way you show your gratitude and appreciation for somebody, and we all know that there are different levels of love, but I feel like that's kind of the basis of it.
Love is it's pretty hard to define. It's a broad topic, but like love for a significant other is different than love for like a family member or something. So it really depends on what type of love you're talking about.
All right, so definitely we know that love can be defined in a variety of ways, but based upon what I'm hearing, love is a state of being that allows for connectivity, whether it is internal or external, physically, mentally, chemically, energetically. All right, so how has the concept of love changed over time?
I think, well, generally it's more. It seemed like it was more authentic back in the day, where you didn't have people on social media trying to constitute and regulate every single relationship and all that. You know.
I agree. I think social media or technology as a whole has altered the way that we experience love. And so we have scenarios in which we can communicate and have relationships with people from millions of miles and miles away that we claim as love. And so it alters the way that we can have experiences of love.
So you guys are saying that in today's time, social media is changing the landscape of how love can be demonstrated, and you potentially may perceive that as a bad thing or a more expanding thing. I would like for you guys to elaborate a little bit more on that topic.
I want to talk about that. So I remember seeing a post on Instagram one time, and it was about this couple, and the guy, he cheated on the girl multiple times, and she still took him back, and a lot of people were saying, oh, that's real love. So now sometimes people normalize cheating, and they normalize being in relationships with these people who do you wrong just to prove that, oh, you're that down person. I feel like you shouldn't have to hurt in order to experience love coming from somebody, whereas social media sometimes portrays it as, oh, well, you don't know if that person is really for you unless you put them through hell, and then now they have to reap what you sow in order to stay with you, just to prove that they're worthy, when in reality you're worthy by yourself.
I think to elaborate on your point, when we're talking about love, and particularly when it comes to being in relationships with other people around this concept, how you approach yourself will be demonstrated in that relationship. So if you're going to torment yourself, then you potentially may torment other people unintentionally, because that is what you're practicing. And so with those practices, how we care for ourselves ultimately is going to be how we connect and what we do to other people. But also, I would like to go back to the point of, we're talking about technology and how technology is changing the landscape of love. We know that Instagram and social media is changing that, or a variety of platforms. But you guys are mentioning how it is having a negative impact, or it is changing the authenticity of love. So when we're talking about authenticity, how is social media changing the authenticity of love?
I feel as if social media changes the authenticity of love, because you could just type "I love you," but in person it has greater meaning and greater value.
Also, like people on any social media will see a couple and think that's goals or whatever, or want to try to be like that, and when they see that they're not that, they get disappointed, and even if they don't like what they see, they still do that to try to be goals or something. Like they don't do stuff that they really like. They do it because they think it seems likable, if that makes sense.
Okay.
On that note, I think it changes the authenticity because people have the power to put forth their definition of love, and therefore people take different definitions from different people, changing what it is that love really is.
Okay. So how do you differentiate between love and infatuation, or even just relationship goals? How are we differentiating between these different concepts that are creating a lot of noise for us?
I feel like to differentiate those concepts, it really comes down to what feels right to you. Because when you're pulling your intake from everything else, yes, some things may work and others may not, but in the end, you know what love feels like. It's a feeling. You know what it feels like. You know when you're receiving it. You know when you're not receiving what you've been putting in. So you'll know. I feel like it's just one of those things, it's not really something somebody can tell you, oh, you love this person, or oh, this person loves you. You will know it because you will feel it.
All right.
Love is definitely an experience. So it's something that you have to be able to identify within yourself and not let someone dictate for you. And so when you have to know when it is that you're feeling love and when it is that you're feeling infatuation so that you can address it properly.
Right.
Love also has more longevity than infatuation. Like if you get into like an argument or something in a relationship, and then you don't think you're gonna feel the same way afterwards. That's not the same as trying to figure out the root of the argument and then come into like a solution for it.
So the approach is different, what you're saying, and the way that you're going to respond to each other it basically is going to have an effect on the relationship. And when we're talking about creating a state of being, or building relationships, when love is present, you're going to get to a resolution. Whereas sometimes if we're just setting relationship goals or having infatuation, it could just end wildly. Okay. So how are we navigating relationships or romantic relationships at this point in time? How are we navigating romantic relationships? These are the questions that you all chose.
Some people just like can I say like sex?
Be honest.
Some people just want sex in a relationship, or they do a relationship just to get sex out of it and then leave or something.
Also, I feel like people nowadays, they don't go for people that they like or people that they think that fit well with them. They go for looks and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think I'm navigating through my romantic relationship by keeping an open mind and being able to go through experiences and learn from each other and grow with each other. It's not something that is created or the relationship isn't something where you take and keep taking. It's something that it's kind of like a glass of two glasses of water that flow within each other. And so sometimes there's instances where you need more water within your cup, and then there's instances when that person needs more water in their cup. And so understanding that you both have needs and you both have desires, and addressing them properly is important in navigating through my romantic relationship.
That was a great analogy.
Yeah, I think so. So how do you guys feel like there is a sense of urgency amongst you all, you and your peer group, to find this idea of love?
For sure, everybody wants. Some people will just get in a relationship because they're bored and see their friends in one. Like that's not, that shows that sense of urgency. Because like if you would take you would get in one at your own pace.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a sense of urgency to find love. Or that's what people make it seem like it's supposed to be, because everybody gets to that point where they feel lonely. Like especially like because it's quarantine and nobody really has anybody, and everybody's starting to figure out who's really there for them or not. Sometimes it makes you feel like, oh, you can't do this alone, or you need somebody to be there for you, or you just want somebody to be by yourself. But in reality, I feel like this is really the time to love on yourself a lot more. To give that love back to yourself.
So, in closing, how are we building more loving relationships with ourselves so that we can have tools to navigate potentially having loving relationships with other people?
I think to start to talk about relationships, you first have to address yourself. And so you can't go and love someone else unless you love yourself. And so self-love is something that I think is important to start with before you go and try to offer it to someone else.
Definitely. I personally have been doing a lot of shadow work, trying to get down to the root of issues that I may have, because even in relationships, I realize it's trauma that I have that I take into those relationships, and to make sure that my relationship with myself is healthy so that I don't go damaging somebody else's life or damage their perception of love. I want to make sure that I'm where I need to be, and I have that mindset where it's just like, okay, you're dealing with this, but these are the ways you can get through it, because your traumas are not your lasting sentence. That's not the end for you. You're more than that.
Beautiful.
Totally. I feel like you need to fight your own demons before you bring demons into another relationship with another person, because you never know if they're not strong enough to handle your demons too.
Yeah,
You can
just
ruin good
being
relationships.
content with yourself and your insecurities, and basically.
I will add that you're going to meet people where you are, and it doesn't mean that you can't bridge relationships regardless of your past traumas. But as you are building an awareness and understanding more about yourself, you're going to have the tools to navigate those spaces. And so when you understand that everything is a mirror of you, and how you approach these things are reflective of you, then you are off to a great start to building solid relationship with yourself as well as those around you. So thank you guys for discussing the idea of love from a teenage perspective. And remember that in building a more equitable, manageable, loving world, that you are responsible for your life. So always remember to school your life.
You're off and on your way, up and away, yeah. We parlay in the morning, we party throughout the day. Up and away, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Up underlay, yeah. Up and away, yeah.
Yes, sir.
School is like the only way.
School is important in life, you gotta be educated. Go through life with no regrets, cause you regret if you hesitate. And strive to be the best, the obstacles gon' leave you aggravated. But once you succeed, you gon' figure you have to celebrate it. You gotta make sure that you treasure it. School and life, forget the nonsense, it's irrelevant. Be what you put your mind to, you could be the president. Greatness you achieve for your people, you gotta
It
represent.
goes up and away, yeah. Today's the best day ever, you're off and on your way. Up and away, yeah. We parlay in the morning, we party throughout the day. Up and away, yeah. Up underlay, yeah. Up and away, yeah. Schooling like the only way. Each day when you wake up, either you're taking intentional steps to being your best self, or you're moving further away from your truth and your goals. There is a difference between being self-focused and self-centered. Value yourself. Love yourself. Hype yourself up because you're dope. It is perfectly okay to be your biggest fan with purpose. Yo, you got this.